We begin tonight with the President's acceptance of the resignation of the Finance Minister, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun. Presidency sources say the President thanked Mrs. Adeosun for her service to the country in the last 3 years. Mrs. Adeosun had been enmeshed in a controversy over her NYSE exemption certificate after a publication by an online medium concerning the veracity of the document. Mrs. Adeosun was appointed in November 2015 after she had been cleared by the Department of State Services and the Senate. Prior to her appointment as minister, she had served as Commissioner of Finance in Ogun State between 2011 and 2015. Now, earlier today, the news of the alleged resignation of the Finance Minister, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, flooded the news media on account of controversies surrounding her exemption from the National Youth Service Corps. This evening, the resignation was confirmed by the Presidency after her hours of silence over the true picture of things. In this report, our correspondent, Temple Ashaju, takes a look at the minister's legacies.
Mrs. Kemi Adeosun has made history as the first Nigerian finance minister to resign from office. Mrs. Adeosun's 3-year in office has its own share of controversies. These range from initial competency and profile questions to the SEC's Guazos suspension from office and the yet-to-be-proven allegation of educational certification forgery. Despite the initial or teething reservations about her, the finance minister's tenure was active in the administration of President Buhari that prides itself in public sector accountability, transparency, prudence, and anti-corruption. Mrs. Adeosun will be remembered for some key initiatives during her time in office. She sets up the efficiency unit, cut thousands of ghost workers off the government payroll, led the whistleblower program, while she pounds the streets, championing the tax amnesty exercise alongside the Inland Revenue Service.
When you've paid your taxes, I assure you, people will vote. People will get the voter's card and make sure they vote. People will take an interest in who is running for Senate. People will take an interest in who is running for governor because they have personal stake in the monies that are being managed.
On Market Street, the former finance chief made invaluable contributions to the various multi-billion-dollar Eurobond offerings while leading Nigeria's discussions with multilateral institutions. Mrs. Adeosun, Nigeria's second female Minister of Finance, is leaving behind quite a bit of issues which the incoming finance chief will have to deal with at a time when political considerations loom large over the economy and the financial markets. Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
Well, we're now in receipt of Mrs. Adeosun's resignation letter. I'm just going to read a part of it to you here on Channels Television, and it says, quote, "I have today become privy to the findings of the investigation into the allegation made in an online medium that the certificate of exemption from National Youth Service Corps that I had presented was not genuine. This has come as a shock to me, and I believe that in line with the administration's focus on integrity, I must do the honourable thing and resign." Just again to say that this is part of Mrs. Adeosun's resignation letter, saying that she's become privy to the findings of the investigation into the allegation made in an online medium that the certificate of exemption from National Youth Service Corps that I presented was not genuine. This has come as a shock to me, and I believe that in line with this administration's focus on integrity, I must do the honourable thing and resign. Statement there from Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, part of her resignation letter. Now let's take a look at all this. And joining me to discuss this development is a legal practitioner, Mr. Gt. Ogoni. Thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
And what a day it is indeed. After all the speculation, we have confirmation now. How did you take the news?
I took the news with some kind of excitement.
Excitement?
Yes, excited at the fact that perhaps in Nigeria where those in our public life, public officers cling to political offices, that perhaps all hopes are not lost yet. I have seen what has been done today, although it's taking some time, 65 days or so after the news broke, as a step in the right direction. And this act of grace today may yet become redemptive for the minister concerned. So I took it with excitement.
Being such a senior member of of the cabinet and in charge of the economy, I don't know, what do you think the implication of that will be?
It will have been, the implication up to now has been very grave in my view. Recall that not too long after the news broke, the minister was giving some kind of elevation of some sort when there was some Nezim bank arrangement and all that, and he was appointed on the board and all that, and people were wondering whether she was being compensated for that scandal. But now that she's resigned, I think that that implication has been lifted from the head of Nigeria, so to speak, and I think that she can claim that now she's earned the prefix Honourable Minister to her name by this singular action.
And in terms of naming a replacement, I know obviously with this particular administration we've seen a lot of controversy to do with appointments, etc. In terms of naming a replacement, do you think the government, first of all, has enough time to do that, seeing as elections are so close? And what do you think? Well,
Nigerians can hardly walk by the speed of this administration. It took the administration 6 months to constitute a cabinet. And so if the administration had anticipated that inevitably this resignation would come in the past weeks or so, the administration could have been shopping for a replacement. So that immediately she leaves, there will be a replacement. There will be no vacuum because of the importance of the Ministry of Finance to the overall well-being of the economy of the country. So I expect the administration to proceed with haste and then, announce a replacement. And
just in terms of the shape in the economy is in now, who would you be looking, what sort of plan, economic plan, would you be looking to see now that we have this, well, let me not say vacuum, since there's no vacuum in government, but what would you like to see?
Well, a lot of people have said that we shouldn't be fixated on the exchange rate as an indicator of how vibrant our economy is. Well, this administration has not grown the economy in the direction that the people had expected. For example, before the administration came on the stream, we were told that the exchange rate stability will be there and all that. And then, before we knew what was happening, it had gone haywire. And so, and since largely we still a consumerist economy, a consumption economy, we don't produce, we consume more, and this is based on foreign exchange in terms of our import. It will impact on the prices of goods and commodities. And so I want to see a Minister of Finance that will come in and within the short term that is still left, steer the economy in the direction that the economy will work for the ordinary people and the ordinary men and women in this country.
All right, legal practitioner Mr. Pt.1 Ogoni, thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10 tonight. 23 years after the execution of Ken Saro-Wiwa, leaders of Ogoni land in Rivers State are making fresh appeals to the federal government to honor the late rights activist. The leaders made the appeal during a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Villa this Friday. The president also received a delegation of traditional rulers from Abia State at the Villa. Our State House correspondent Ibrahim Adra reports.
It's a long trip from Ogoni land in Rivers State. This delegation made it to Abuja, where they meet with President Buhari.
We urge Mr. President to direct NDDC.
King Godwin Giniwa, through a spokesman, did not mince words in praising their host for making real his promise to clean up Ogoni land.
This political commitment has also been put into practice by the cleanup and restoration of Ogoni land, which indeed is a testament to your leadership, because your words have become your bond, and thereby you have set yourself apart from other political leaders.
They, however, want such action replicated in the areas of security, infrastructure, health, and others. The Ogonis also lament long-term poor political representation.
For 51 years since the creation of Rivers State, Ogonis have never headed the executive of Rivers State, the legislature, or the judiciary. In this vein, Your Excellency, we urge you to use your good office and fatherly goodwill to facilitate the emergence of an Ogoni son as the governor of Rivers State. The same spirit of promoting national healing and reconciliation be extended to the fallen heroes of Ogoni by honoring Ken Saro-Wiwa and the other 12 Ogoni martyrs.
President Buhari says he is aware of challenges in Ogoni land, many of which he believes would have been solved with more commitment and focus in the past, instead of awarding contracts that were not implemented.
Please prove your leadership by having control on the exuberance of the youth.
The president told his guests that his government is working hard to change the situation. Dr. Isaac Ikone, the traditional ruler of Abia, also led a delegation of Abia traditional rulers to meet with the president.
This has given Nigeria.
The leader lauded government efforts in areas of agriculture, security, infrastructure, amongst others.
You are doing well, and you mean well for this country. It is not flattering, but the truth. That is why I pray for you, and I urge all Nigerians to pray for more courage, more wisdom, more good health for you to continue in this noble but not easy task of governing our country. I am therefore.
The president gave the Ezia and his group the assurance of stable electricity in our area market and a promise to rapidly industrialize the country.
I personally met with one of the largest cotton and garment companies in the world, who will soon establish operations in Abia area.
He also urged that leaders continue to guide the youth on the path of peace while shunning hateful and divisive rhetorics. From the presidential villa, Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says it will punish the operatives that allegedly raided the head office of Standard Chartered Bank earlier today. A statement by the EFCC spokesman Wilson Wajere says the raid by men purportedly wearing the jackets of the commission might have been the handiwork of officers who acted without authorization. According to him, the action of the operatives is in flagrant violation of the standard operational procedures of the commission, and it's not the style of the EFCC to openly raid the offices of banks and other financial institutions. The EFCC spokesman says the commission will investigate the circumstances leading to the illegal raid, and those found culpable will be subjected to the internal disciplinary mechanism of the commission.